What's going on, everybody? King of Dragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the NECA Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S. Godzilla. And so here we have Godzilla posing out of the packaging. Now, unfortunately, Godzilla here doesn't come with any accessories. The one thing that is detached out of packaging is the tail, and you just have to attach that. Unfortunately, no atomic breath for this Godzilla, which I think it's a really missed opportunity to throw in an accessory with a Godzilla figure. It kind of sucks, but that's how NECA does it, unfortunately. So, with that out of the way, guys, let's actually move on to his details. And so here we have a closer look at the Millennium version of Godzilla. Now, we know it's just the era of Godzilla. There were different versions of the Millennium Godzilla. But this is pretty much one of my favorite versions of Godzilla. We have the traditional, the really old school Godzilla, the Heisei era, the Millennium era, and then Legendary era. This is one of my favorite iterations of Godzilla. It's one that I can remember the most, and it's probably because I grew up during this time. But really love the detailing here on Godzilla. You can see just how much detail went into the sculpt work of this figure. I would say for what you're paying, it's exceptionally good. You can see that there is some dry brushing right here on Godzilla. He's not just a black piece of plastic, so I do like that. Really love how piercing those eyes are. If you do have them looking straight, you can see that the eyes are done really well. That's something NECA has struggled with in the past when it comes to Godzilla figures. Really glad they are getting better at painting Godzilla's eyes. Taking a look at his mouth, it is articulated and it does open up. Millennium Godzilla did have a more triangular mouth, and you can see they did paint the tongue a really nice dark glossy magenta, and then his teeth are almost orange, so I do like that. Really love the way his head looks. You can see the start of his dorsal plate starting at the top of his head, going on to his really muscular neck right here. You can see just how muscular it is, and I do like that there is some dry brushing done right here. You can see all the scale work right here going down into the scarring. I believe that is scarring. I don't quite remember from the movie. It's been a while since I've seen Tokyo S.O.S. But really love the dry brushing that they did on him. Godzilla here is done exceptionally well. You can see his dorsal plates have that really nice paint on them. They're supposed to be sharper, but I understand why NECA made them a little bit duller than they're supposed to be. One on mine is unfortunately bent out of packaging. That's nothing a little hot water or the hairdryer can't fix, but I love the way the dorsal plates look. If you look on this side, it's the same. We get that really nice detail. Really love the structure of Millennium Godzilla. You can see how rough and raggedy his body looks, and it's just really imposing even right here in the neck. It's so rigid and rugged. It's a really defining look for Godzilla. I don't know why I can't find my words with this figure. But I'm really not sure why NECA went this route of making his neck a rubbery overlay. It kind of does take away articulation right here in his neck, but it does free up articulation in his arms, which we'll get more on that later. But you can see that dry brushing carries over to his arms, and then we have his menacing claws that he uses to just tear Mechagodzilla apart. So really like that they did paint the claws on Godzilla. Now, I did originally think that the legs were reused from the All-Out Monster Assault Godzilla, but no, these are completely new legs too. Even the feet are brand new, so really like the fact that each Godzilla that we're getting is accurate to what it's supposed to be, and they're not reusing bits and pieces for them. Taking a look at his tail, this is probably one of the most defining features of the Millennium Godzilla, is his tail. Versus previous incarnations of Godzilla, Millennium Godzilla had a very long tail, and you can see it's a really long tail going all the way down. I'm pretty sure this figure is a little more than 12 inches from head to tail tip, but it is an extremely long tail, and just having it here, Godzilla's face and tail tip are touching the edges of my studio, and my studio is 16 inches across, so really long Godzilla, and even here you can see the tail in the background. So yeah, he's a pretty long figure, but he's about the same size as all your other NECA Godzilla, which there is no scaling with these guys. One Godzilla is going to be the same size as all the other ones, with a few minor hiccups, because Millennium Godzilla was one of the bigger Godzillas, and he's not quite to scale with the Legendary Series Godzilla, but that's neither here nor there. Let's actually get him compared to other figures you may have in your collection. Here we have Godzilla posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops and a DC Multiverse Superman. Here we have Godzilla posed next to a WWE Elite Scale figure and a Mezco 1/12 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man. Here we have Godzilla posed next to a Lightning Collection White Ranger and a Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. And so here we have the Tokyo S.O.S. Godzilla posed next to the All-Out Monster Assault Godzilla. And finally, here we do have the Tokyo S.O.S. Godzilla posed next to the 1994 High Sierra Godzilla. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually run through his articulation really fast. Now, Godzilla here does have a double ball joint in the head, which does allow it to move up and down really nicely. And the fact that this neck piece is a softer rubber does allow some really nice up and down movement. You can tilt his head side to side, which works really well. His head is on an offset, so when you do rotate it, it kind of does go off at an angle. There's really no way to get a straight swivel, kinda. But you can position it so he's looking straight, or he's looking straight down. However you want his head to pose, you can do that. It does feel like there is a ball joint right here in the base of the neck, and that does move all the way around. Goes back, goes forward, goes side to side, and it does turn, so I do like that. We get some rotation right there. Still don't know why they made this a soft rubber. They could have just easily made this the shoulder. But anyway, going on, Godzilla does have a ball joint in the shoulder, and it's not a hinge swivel. It's actually a ball joint, so we don't get all the way out. It only goes out to about there, so that's not really good range. It would do a full 360, but it is hindered by this overlay. So again, if they had sculpted this as the shoulder, he'd have more articulation. So we don't get too much in terms of forward and back, but it's sufficient for a Godzilla figure. We do have rotation and a hinge right here in the elbow, so it does go down about that far. Goes up to about 90 degrees, which works for Godzilla. We do have a swivel and hinge at the wrist, which works perfectly fine. Really like that joint there. And then we also have finger joints for Godzilla. We do have a ball joint right here in the middle torso of Godzilla, so that does move side to side. It rotates, moves back, goes forward, only to about there, which is pretty decent for a Godzilla figure. And then going back, you can see it does that fairly nicely, so I do like that. The hips appear to be on that same ball joint style that the arms are, because they don't rotate forward and back straight. They go off at an angle, and they do have some swivel to them, so more than likely that is a ball joint, because they don't go out all too far, and when you rotate them they kind of go off at an angle, so that's probably just a ball joint that they used. He does have rotation down here at the knee, as well as a hinge. It's kind of stiff on mine, but you can see it goes straight, bends only to about there. Godzilla back in the day wasn't the most articulated creature, and he still isn't, so I can forgive that. Really nice ball joint right here at the ankle. Does move side to side, forward and back, so good articulation there. We do have a double ball joint right here at the base of the tail, so that does move forward and back. It moves side to side as well as rotates. 2 segments down, we have another ball joint right here at the tail. Another 2 segments, we have another joint. 2 segments, we have the joint, and the tail just popped off, which it will be prone to popping off the more you mess with it. Here we do have 3 segments and then a joint. We have another 3 segments and then another ball joint. We have another 3 segments followed by a ball joint. 3 segments followed by a ball joint. Another 3 segments followed by, well, that's 4 segments followed by a ball joint. And then we finally get a wireframe for the tail. I don't know why they just didn't make that out of solid plastic, but it works for this Godzilla. And dang, that's a really long tail. But anyway, that's Godzilla for you guys. So what we're going to do now is get him posed for my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this review. And so here we have the NECA Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S. Godzilla pose for my final thoughts, and he is a really awesome figure. I know I had a hard time finding the words for this figure, but he's a really nice figure to have in your collection. There's a lot of things to love about the sculpt work on this figure. I just love the paint apps on him. They could have easily just made him a flat gray plastic, but there's a lot of wash that they added to the figure, which is brought out as you look at this figure in hand. Really love the color of the dorsal spines. Like I said, they should be sharper, but I understand why NECA made them a little bit more rounded, because this is available in most retail stores, so they had to kind of make it a safety standard issue thing, which I can overlook, seeing as how they did an amazing job with the articulation and the detailing. Now, he's not the most articulated Godzilla figure. I know SH Monster Arts does a better articulated Godzilla figure, but for the price point that you're paying for this guy, it's really done well, and that's something I really like about NECA. They are affordable Godzilla figures that are done exceptionally well for the price point. If you are looking for a Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S, I did pick mine up from my local comic book store, so huge shout out to the good folks of Black Sheep Comics for getting this out to me so I could review it for you guys. Godzilla S.O.S here will run you about $30 at most retail, especially at Target. I picked mine up for $25, and that's a pretty good price for a NECA figure. Seeing as how they are starting to bump up the price just a little bit, I think $25 to $30 is a really good price for this figure. If you can find Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S in stores, I really recommend you pick them up, especially if you're a fan of the Millennium Series Godzilla like I am. You're going to want to have this guy in your collection. With that being said, guys, I'm KingofDragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and check out all my other action figure reviews, as well as all my other Godzilla related videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you would like to see me review, let me know down in the comments, and if it's in my collection, I'll definitely have a look at it. While you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, and as always, ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.